she's going to share with us about Storyblok. So Arisa, take it away.
All right. Sorry for taking 1 minute to unmute myself. I was opening, like another tab with watching the stream. So anyway, thanks for having me. Yeah, everyone, thanks for joining my talk. I hope you are excited to watch what I'm going to talk today. So let me share my screen very quickly. 1 second. All right, I hope you can see my screen. If not, let me know. I hope Cody will help me out. All right, so let's get started. So thanks again joining my talk. And yeah, in this talk, I'm here today to share with you a Jamstack approach with React, Storyblok GraphQL API, and Apollo client. And yeah, you will learn how to use these tech stacks in once. But before diving into the talk itself, I kind of missed the chance, to introduce about myself. So let me quickly do that. So my name is Arisa Fukuzaki. You can call me Arisa. I'm originally from Japan, Hiroshima, but currently based in South Germany. So yeah, at work, I work as a developer relations engineer at Storyblok. Mainly, I give a lot of talks in online conferences like Untangling GraphQL in here today, or in person as well. You might see me in a couple of the tech conferences, and when you see me, I will be really happy to greet with everyone. So please say hi. And yeah, besides from my work, because of course I want to introduce about myself more in personal level to get to know with everyone. So I do an ambassador at Girl Code. So Girl Code is an organization to empower women who want to, change their careers to become developers. I actually also came from the, non-tech background and also became the developer. So that's why I am really passionate about. As you might could guess, I have a strong passion about programming education. So I used to teach in 3 online programming schools to teach front-end technologies, and occasionally I also taught at Front-End Foxes School, and sometimes I also still teach in there too. I also believe strongly a lot in communities. So because this is the place where I was able to gain my skills rapidly. So that's why I organized my own Japanese tech community with over hundreds of the community members to host some of the tech events. All right, that's pretty much all what I do at work and outside of the work. But let's get dive into the main topic itself. So if you want to, for example, take a look at what I'm going to show you today in this talk, of course, there is a hands-on blog post tutorial available for you, because I'm kind of person always prefer to take a look at in text written format to test it out after what I have learned through talks. So if you want to take a look at it, here is the link, and I'm going to make sure to post this link in here. So, right. Then you can easily, get access and test it out, what I'm going to show you today, because this talk will, include a demo that you can also play around in your environment. And yeah, of course, if you want to build a project in your local environment, this tutorial shows you step-by-step instructions on how. And not to forget, of course, there is a GitHub repo available for the demo project that I'm going to show you in this talk. And if you want to quickly see and test it out how it works, you can simply clone or fork this repo. So I'm also going to share the URL in the chat. All right. So let's move on to the fun part. So in here, what I'm going to do is, well, first thing first, we need to set up the React project, right? Because as I said earlier, this talk is going to be the React project with the combination of Apollo client and GraphQL API that is provided from Storyblok side. So to build our app with the React, I'm going to use create React app. Simple is the best, right? So after that, then I am going to install 3 packages. So the first one is the Apollo client. And the second one is the GraphQL, of course. And the third package is actually a SDK that is provided from Storyblok side, specifically dedicated for React projects. So I'm sure that all of you who joined this talk is quite already familiar with what Apollo client is, because I also have saw, and yeah, all the other speakers also already explained quite well. So I'm not going to take too long about that. But if I give a quick note, then Apollo client is a communication layer that helps you to manage the flow of data between your application of the clients and your backend services. So that's why I chose Apollo Client to combine that. And then we have so far created the very, very fundamental of our React project in order to be able to use with the combination of Apollo Client, to first of all, like enable one of the SDK packages that is provided from Storyblok side. So Storyblok is another quick note. Storyblok is a headless CMS, and that's what we are going to use as a Jamstack approach. So in here, when you first create an account at Storyblok and then log into your account, then first, of course, we need to create our project, right? And here is the GIF that you can see how you can create your project in here. At Storyblok, we call project as space. So if you see the option of new space in here, that's the option you can create new space. And all you need to do is select, create the new space and fill out the name of your project, and that's it. Then you have already your very first Storyblok project. All right, so in this step, we are going to initialize the Apollo client with Storyblok's GraphQL endpoint. So Storyblok provides multiple numbers of, I would say, the APIs. And then in this case, I want to use the GraphQL. So in here, what I want you to focus on is the first highlighted green line of the code. So here is the place where you can actually store the GraphQL, Storyblok GraphQL endpoint in here. You don't have to change anything. You just simply copy and paste in here to store. And then after that, let's pay attention to the second highlighted green line of the code. And here you see the token property, and the value says the your token. So instead of using this, string your token, let's swap the value into the preview API key token that is provided from Storyblok side. And in the next slide, I'm going to show you where exactly you can get that. So as I promised you in here, this is the screen or the flow where you can get the preview API key token from Storyblok side, so that you will be able to create the connection between your React Apollo project and then the Storyblok side. All you need to do is, first of all, log into the dashboard, go to settings, access tokens, and here's the preview API key token that you can copy. And then after that, you can paste this preview API key token into the your token string that I showed you in the previous slide. And that's it. All right, in this step, I'm going to explain you that the Storyblok's GraphQL schema is generated from your content types. What I mean by that, to say the content types, is that, well, content type is another, I would say, like the term that you hear a lot when you use Storyblok. So content types are equivalent to, for example, page templates. So it means that the GraphQL schema from Storyblok is generated from your page templates. So for every content type, means every page template, Storyblok generates two fields. So for example, in this case, let's assume that I have a template with a name of page. In this case, I need to assume that the two cases, first of all, receiving a single item, and the other case would be receiving the multiple items. So for this case, the name of the two fields are going to be receiving the single item would be page item, singular, and receiving multiple items would be page items. And in here, of course, if you use the GraphQL, the playground graphical is something that you cannot miss it. Without this, to be honest, I don't know how to test it out to see before I start to write my code. So this is very helpful tools, and I heavily rely on. And of course, from Storyblok side, we created the GraphQL playground for GraphQL users. And here what I'm doing is that, first of all, I want to test it out to retrieve a single field that is going to be one page template. That's why I am using the name of the field as page item from what we learned together in the previous slide. So to take a look at, or to test it out, first of all, your own queries from your dedicated Storyblok projects, what you can do is that, first of all, pay attention to the URL of this GIF, and simply just copy this, and all you need to do is swap the value, the parameter in the end in this URL to your preview API key token. I'm using my preview API key token, so if you copy this URL, make sure to change into your preview API key token. And then what I'm doing is that I want to test it out, first of all, whether I'm able to retrieve the name of this page or not. So this this page, the page template has the name of the home. So technically, if I'm able to retrieve such kind of information, then I can see, or I should see, the what kind of values are going to be returned on the right hand side, and it does. So it means that all the necessary fundamentals to retrieve such kind of information and display the values that I want to output on the preview is ready for me. So in the next step, let's update one of the source code file that we have generated from our Create React app. And that is going to be app.jsx. So the point, what I was testing out first to retrieve the name of the this home page was for this. First of all, I wanted to test it out to see that I can retrieve actually that value. After that, then I'm quite sure that I can use this path to reach out to the necessary queries. So that's what I am, calling these queries in the top few lines of the code in the query variable. So that all I need to do is return in a scope of JSX to display the name of this page, which is actually a home. In next step, we will create 4 components that will dynamically get data from the Storyblok space. So just to give you a very quick overview about the reason why I chose Storyblok in this case, it's not just because I work for them. First of all, that's not funny or interesting reason to hear. I chose as a developer because you can, or everyone can, actually create the components dynamically. And as you define the components that you're going to use, you can nest them as many as layer you want. So it's based on the component-based methodology called atomic design. And then you can define all kind of scale of the components, such as, for example, the button or the input for the form, or up to like the page template, etc. And you can reuse all these components in anywhere that you want to reuse, so that you can save your work, Also, we are going to create soon after the logic of like dynamically creating such kind of components, so that any kind of users who has the access to the let's say Storyblok account and then working on your project together will be able to create any kind of components only from the Storyblok's dashboard or the visual editor. I'm going to show you what does it mean, the visual editor, later on. So to create such kind of logic, first of all, we need to create these components. Otherwise, we cannot see. So these are the components that we are going to create and mean to render, dynamically in the end. So I'm going to create feature, teaser, grid, and page. And page is a little bit special component, I would say, different from the other rest of the 3 components, because that is going to be most likely a page, let's say entire page components in there. So to create that, we are going to use our, I would say, Storyblok's React SDK, because we are going to use this React SDK heavily to write less code and let this SDK to handle heavy lifting to connect Storyblok and our React and Apollo project. All right, in the beginning of this talk, I kind of mentioned that we also offer different and various kind of comprehensive APIs, including GraphQL API. So for example, like just in case, if you decided not to use, let's say, the GraphQL API, still you can access your data by Content Delivery API. But especially because I love GraphQL and I use quite often or almost like daily basis. So to optimize for fast content delivery, as Storyblok offers GraphQL API, why not to use the GraphQL API? Because yeah, first of all, the benefit of using GraphQL is quite huge in my opinion, because you can fetch everything with a single request. So for example, like if the REST API, not if, I mean, the REST API retrieves, like the unnecessary user data. Basically, it gets everything, regardless of like what you want to choose to use or not. So it's going to be quite heavy, weight. But on the other hand, GraphQL API can request only the necessary, only the needed user data. So that's why I like using that. And that's the benefit of it. And let's pay attention to the blue highlighted line on the left-hand side. So this is the query to retrieve the body content. And what we are going to get is on the pink highlighted part. So body contains, like an array object. And if you pay closer attention, you see that actually, those are the all components that we want to dynamically render in the end. So what I want to insist in here is the this is actually an array object, means that we can map these multiple numbers of components dynamically later. So let's start to create the feature component, and then let's pay attention to the block prop in here. So what I'm doing is that this block prop receives the path in the beginning, means that we took a look at together how the path or how the queries will start, right? So starting from the page item, that is the name to receive the single item. And it follows to, for example, content and then a body, and we know what body will return the values, right? So these, like the beginning of the queries are going to be passed in, let's say, like more parent component that we are going to define later. So I need to tell you that this feature component is something that the child component that we want to nest inside of some other components that we are going to define. So that's why this block prop will have these, the beginning of the queries. And then all you need to do is pass the rest of the query to, get the necessary data and then display or render when you need. So what I'm doing is that, I am going to display the name of each feature component in here with dev element. So that's why I am, connecting these name query after the block prop. Moving on to create the teaser component, and this is also another child component that you can nest inside of some other components. And I wanted to bring this example after the feature component, because this is almost exactly the same case. You will have a better understanding of how you will be able to retrieve the queries. Passing into the child component. So again, same logic, but this time is retrieving the headline of the teaser component. So the value should be returned as hello world. Moving on to one of the parent components that is called grid. There is going to be another parent component, but let's get started from something a closer, let's say, relationship with the previous child components that we took a look at together. So this grid component is going to have like teaser component or feature component inside in there. But the thing is, we don't know how many, these feature or teaser components are going to be defined from user side, right? So to remove all kind of concerns, because we don't want to, like manually like program this kind of, these components, that is not going to be dynamic. So to make it dynamic, again, we want to focus on that. Okay, so if we take a look at like what is being returned on GraphQL, it shows as the grid component actually returns an array object inside. So all the components that are going to be like defined, being nested under the grid component can be mapped. So we are going to use this logic. So what I'm doing is that I am mapping the rest of, like no matter how many, features or teasers are going to be returned, I am mapping them dynamically. And yeah, moving on to the highest, I would say like the top level of the parent component, that is going to be page component. So this page component is going to have a nested layout of even including grid, feature, teaser. So basically all the rest of the 3 components that we created earlier. So this page component works as the most parent, I would say like highest parent in this case. That's why we can use like the same logic that we took a look at together from the grid component. So what I'm doing is that, I am going to map the rest of the, components that are stored inside of this body query. All right, in this step, we need to initialize the connection with Storyblok to achieve 3 things, because until right now, we have created the component files, right? We created the fundamentals or the logic from the source code level. But at this moment, users still cannot see what is going to be, look like your project or not. So the beauty of using Storyblok is that you will be able to see the preview in one screen when the when the users are like editing to make the change of the content, and also they want to see changes on the fly. So that's what we are going to enable. So not just like creating dynamic component logic behind, but after creating dynamic component logic behind, we are also going to enable a couple of additional features that users can enjoy on the one screen from the dashboard of the Storyblok that is actually called Visual Editor in this case. So as I said earlier, we are going to initialize the connection between Storyblok and your React with Apollo client project. And the 3 to-dos that I want to do is, first to do is let's link React components with their representation in the Storyblok space means project. And the second to do is that, we can make Storyblok component API that is provided from our React SDK to work. So this is like another, I would say a little like trick that you can write less code and don't have to, build a heavy lifting kind of workaround by yourself. And not to forget, last to do is let's enable the real-time visual editor on the Storyblok screen. So first of all, I haven't yet explained what I'm showing you in here. We have, actually, I didn't realize that I always had this. Let me hide that. So what we are doing is that, first of all, importing all these, component file that we created to dynamically create in an index.js file. So after importing these, component files, then what we are doing is that pay attention to this Storyblok init API that is provided from our React SDK. So all you need to do is call this Storyblok init API. And then a Storyblok init API already has some numbers of properties that you can use. And what you need to do in here is just store the unnecessary values or assign the keys, following the properties. So in Storyblok init, we have a components property or components property. So and here, what we are doing is that store the technical name of the components that you define, and also the name of the component files that you imported, and that's it. That's what you need to do to first of all complete the logic of dynamically creating the component. And there would be one more step that you can render such kind of components in each component files. Moving on to the app.jsx, because we haven't yet finished in here. So in here, let's also include our Storyblok component API that is provided again from React SDK. So I said earlier that this will make your life much easier, and you will be able to enjoy like fewer or less numbers of line of the code that you need to write. And as I said, you only need to import this API, and you just need to call it in the scope of the JSX to render such kind of components. And yeah, in here I have a little bit updated the queries to fetch other properties from our Storyblok space. And there you go. So our first to do was to display the at least how our React and Apollo client project is going to be displayed. So you don't have to open up a different browser tab to see like what is running on your local host. You just can take a look at everything on the Storyblok side. So this is the screen that is called Visual Editor. And yeah, that's the place where users can make the changes of the content, even save the current progress and publish from there. So right now we are like two more steps closer, or one step closer to finish our demo to be completed. So we can see the preview is being displayed. However, you just can't see, means that you cannot make the change on the fly. If you click around, let's say Hello World component or feature one component, it doesn't detect where you clicked. If you change, let's say, the text value Hello World into something else, it doesn't show you how it's going to be changed. So that's why in next step, we want to enable the full feature of the visual editor to enable the real-time, editing experience. And to do that, let me very quickly explain what's the logic behind. So to enable the full feature of the real-time, visual editing experience, what Storyblok does is that we have a toolkit called Storyblok.js Bridge. So what this Storyblok JS Bridge does is that it communicates through iframe, so that the visual editor, the previous screen you have to take a look at, will be able to listen the events that are happening on the visual editor. So if the users click one certain kind of component, for example, like this cute bunny component, then the visual editor will be able to detect that, and it will be able to display in the right field type where users can actually like change or upload new assets in here. And to implement this logic, there are like two things that I can also explain in here. So to implement this JS bridge, first of all, we want to insert we want to load this JS bridge, right? And to do that, the step you need to do is very simple. You just need to insert JS bridge by inserting this exact same script tag. And if you do that, then when you're like editing your content, means like when you are editing the draft content, you will be able to see that in your, like in your queries, that all the components that you can take a look at from the GraphQL side will have this special property called _editable. So every single component will have this _editable property being added, means that while you're like, editing the content in the draft mode, you will be able to, make the changes with the real-time, editing experience. All right, so in this step, we are going to make components editable, because until this moment, we have defined the components, but we didn't, like implement any kind of logic that it's going to be, it's going to be like edited in a real time. So to enable such kind of feature, again, we have another API called Storyblok Editable from the same React SDK. And all you need to do is just import it and then call this Storyblok Editable API. Actually, it's in a function in the top level of the JSX component. So in this case, as an example, I picked up the teaser component. And then here, what you can do is that you can call the Storyblok Editable in the top, which means in this case, div element in there, and store the block props in there. And you can do the same, you can do the same approach for the rest of the three components. All right, so we created until in here we created the logic. If there is the like the special property provided from JSBridge called _editable in each component after JSBridge was being added, and we will make these components being editable. So there's another API called useStoryblok state, and this takes care of the this takes care of adding the JSBridge. Remember that I explained you that we need to implement and insert the script tags to load the JSBridge. So that's what this API will take care of it. And the rest of the things, there is one more thing that I also want to take care of through this API. So this useStoryblok state will also take care of the part to listen all the events that are happening on the visual editor. So all you need to do is it used to be that you have to like call these kind of approach by yourself, and we thought it's not nice experience for developers, right? That's why we improved the DX for them. So that's why from it used to be like really like more than 40 lines of the code, but now it's just like 2 lines of the code that you need to implement. So enjoy the one-liner-ish code to enable full feature of visual editor from our React SDK. And there you go. Now the visual editor is enabled. And as you can see in here, when you click some certain components that you want to make the change, then the visual editor already detects it. And if you change the, like the string value from of hello world in the teaser, you can see that the exclamation marks are being, added as I typed in. And of course, if you want to change the orders of nested components, such as feature components inside of the grid, you can easily do that by click, then drag and drop, as you can see in this GIF. So there you go. Now you enabled all the cool feature, combining with, first of all, GraphQL technology, Apollo client, and Storyblok, which is a headless CMS. And if you want to take a look at the any more like other like possible combinations of the, let's say, front-end technologies, there is the technology hub page available for you. So if you want to implement with various numbers of different front-end libraries, frameworks, or even languages, as Storyblok provides the developers to choose any kind of front-end technologies, feel free to do that. And we are very happy to take any feedbacks from you too. Let me share this technologies URL very quickly so that you can see. All right. And not to forget, it's almost an Eastern season, so I didn't forget to prepare a little perk for you. So if you want to test it out, some of, let's say, like highly, I would say like higher subscription plans, you can easily do that for free for 3 months if you get access through this URL. So make sure to use this URL, and I'm going to paste that too so that you will be able to enjoy some of the higher subscription plans for free for 3 months. And you can see like some of the, let's say, extensions are available like longer than like the experimental period. But of course, like for one seat to use, let's say to test it out before you bring it into your teams, you can always sign up for free and can use the features for free for free for 14 days. But of course, if you have more time, that would be nicer, right? So that's why I prepared that. And if you have any questions related to my talk today, feel free to drop me a message, and you can also join the Discord channel as well. And not to forget, I'm the one giving a talk today, but without having the help and support from my team, I wouldn't be able to, do that. So I want to say a huge thank you, as well as huge thank you for Untangling GraphQL event team, as well as NearForm team for offering me such a nice opportunity. And not to forget, thank you all for joining my talk. And it was my pleasure, giving a talk and also sharing a very nice, insightful learning moment together. So again, thank you all, and I hope to see you soon.
Arisa, that was awesome. I've done some work around headless CMS, and I'm kind of blown away with what you just presented. But So I wish we had time. We don't have time for questions. So if anyone has questions, write them, write Arisa, and we'll make sure we get the answers. But before we drop, I have a slight correction to make. I owe you an apology, Arisa, because when I introduced you, I said storybook and it's Storyblok.
Oh, no.
And I just
That's so good.
read my notes too fast, so I'm really sorry about that.
Don't be sorry. We're in a good relationship,
Good.
And I like them too. So why not?
There's no contention there. Just before you drop, are you going to speak at any other conferences that people could catch you at, or do you know yet?
Oh, yes, I do. I'm going to speak in next week at GDG, Google Developer Groups, for International Women's Day for open panel discussion. And in the end of May, I'm going to give a talk at RemixConf. So yeah, it's going to be in-person conference, and I'm very excited to meet everyone in there. Yeah.
Great. Excellent, Arisa. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, write them into the chat or send them to Arisa. We'll make sure they get answered. Thanks, Arisa. Have a great day and enjoy your next conferences. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye. So I have a couple announcements to make before we wrap up. I'm just going to cut here for just 2 or 3 seconds while I do this.